So I'm on vacation this week, so I might throw some familiar clips online so that you guys can see some of the ones that I've done before, just to kind of reinvigorate you on some things that I had said before. In fact, remind myself of some of the things that I've said before, things that I've experienced. Just kind of logging, if you will, a video journal of my experiences and the things that I like to share with you. But anyway, this morning, I want to talk to you guys about grace. I want to talk to you guys about, as 1 Timothy 1:14 tells us, it's like this flood that comes at us, this flood that, in a sense, overwhelms us and just saturates everything. And if you look at other places in Scripture, though, it talks about this immense grace being a result of taking responsibility. Now, the beautiful thing about grace is that we are released of the burden and the consequence of our actions. Not that we shouldn't take responsibility, or in this grace and forgiveness that we're just completely able to walk away from it and not have to deal with it. The beautiful thing about grace is that we're released. The difficult thing initially is admittance or taking responsibility. We don't always like that. We like the freedom part. We like the forgiveness part. We like the release from sin part of this mercy and grace. But we don't always like, we rarely like taking responsibility in some senses, or admitting our sin, admitting our actions, admitting our failures, admitting our faults. We're so willing to inspect the lives of others, to look at them and with a fine tooth comb, if you will, or to take the metal detector of sinfulness, and that sounds really corny, but you know what I'm saying, like just look over their life and say, okay, you've got this flaw, you've got this problem, you've got this issue, you've got this, and point it out in their lives and tell them how wrong they are and how messed up they are and how much they need to deal with things. Well, where are we at? Like, what's going on in our life? What's happening within us? When is the last time you looked at yourself and said, okay, it's time for me to do something about this. It's time for me to take responsibility. It's time for me to own this. It's time for me to say, okay, I've got to address this. Because in those moments where we address our sinfulness, in those moments where we address our personal struggles, in those moments where we are honest with ourselves about what's messed up, what's broken, what we're dealing with, are the moments that grace and that beauty and wonder of God's love can flood our life. It'll saturate every part of us. His love and His mercy and His compassion just begins to fill us, overflowing like the banks of a river, not being able to contain all the beauty and wonder that grace has. What are we responsible for? Like, if we take a look at the world around us, we take a look at the current news, the media itself, we take a look at how we've responded to the virus. We take a look at text coming in. I want to try to finish this video though. We take a look at some of the things that have happened around us, the issues, the struggles, the problems, the difficulties. We take a look at our life and say, okay, what have I done wrong? Like, when we are confronted with racism and we are confronted with all these different socioeconomical issues, when we are confronted with how we respond to those in authority, when we are confronted with our personal feelings about leadership and powers, when we are confronted with all of those different things, when we are confronted with being in our own homes with our families because we can't step outside for some time, when we are confronted with real things that are happening in our life, when we are confronted with those things, what do we do? How do we respond? How do we address them? Do we look at them for what they are and say, okay, God, I need to respond to you and be honest with you and be real with you and be real with others so that I can experience your grace? It's not that God is withholding it, but a beautiful thing in receiving grace, in receiving mercy, and our lives being saturated with it is coming clean, exposing everything that we are doing that we shouldn't be doing, so that there's nothing hidden, so that we feel personally that we've not kept the secrets. I want to be saturated with His grace. I want to be saturated with His forgiveness and His love. Come on, guys, let's be honest. Let's be real. Let's be bold enough and brave enough to tell about what's going on in our life.